We're right here at England's headquarters in St George's Park, but first of all we're going to look at the weekend's action. Of course, there's only one man leading the back page. José's curse, says the Daily Mail, because now he's facing a touchline ban for those rather provocative Portuguese words after his match, and a touchline ban at Stamford against Chelsea.
Yeah, it's it's kind of why always him sort of. I suppose if you've got he talked about being the victim of a manhunt at the weekend. You know, he does have a very there we go. He does have a very fine talent for catchy little phrases. But I suspect it's a little, if he's sworn in Portuguese at a TV camera, then I'm not sure really what your defence is going to be there. Oh, so it's only Portuguese. It's like somebody murdering somebody and then saying, oh well, it's a manhunt. I'm being victimised here. You could come after me. I'm not saying he's not murdered anybody that we know of.
Wayne Rooney leaping to his defence and saying that actually under Van Gaal there was the same situation, that Van Gaal set up the team well, but the team as a collective weren't together in the dressing room and weren't performing on the pitch, and that certain individuals need to do that. Will that be a fillip to him, that players like of Wayne Rooney's substance are coming to his defence?
But it certainly backs up the argument that he's been making over the course of the season, that a lot of United's troubles have come from individual mistakes. Now, there's a really laborious argument to be had here about whether those mistakes and are a product of a culture of almost a culture of negativity that Mourinho creates around his clubs. But I think the fact that there are plenty of other parties at fault here, whether it's the structure and organisation of the club itself, the recruitment strategy over the summer, mistakes by players, the fact that there are plenty of parties at fault here doesn't mean that Mourinho is getting off scot-free here. So yeah, there's a certain truth to that, but the man in charge is still the guy who the buck stops with.
Let's talk about the suggestion of the manhunt. Of course, on the back page of the Mirror, it was suggested he would be sacked whatever the result. But after Manchester United's previous form, particularly with Van Gaal, when we knew at Wembley, after he'd lifted the trophy, that he was going to be sacked, you can understand why that story ran.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a bold one, because who was the philosopher? Was it Heisinger? Heisinger's observation theory principle, that the very act of observing a phenomenon changes it by nature. And a story this big was always going to have the potential to shift the narrative to the point where you can easily imagine somebody in the Manchester United boardroom reading the newspapers and thinking, well, we can't sack him now because it'll look like we sacked him because the Daily Mirror told us to. So it was a bold story, and I liked the kind of the punt that he took, and which has kind of backfired on him ever since. But
and I was very much doing an Ian Ladyman nod as you started talking about philosophy.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But a very interesting point. A more sombre reflection in Michael Carrick's autobiography, which is written alongside Henry Winter, in which he reveals after the Champions League final in Rome that he suffered from depression for 2 years, and this really is a surprising revelation. It was a surprise to Henry Winter. I remember at one point he came back to me while he was writing the book and said, there was a moment and this is what this moment is. And it's, we hope that in the future players won't wait so long to reveal this, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising, but then these things always are. I suppose that saying is that everyone's fighting a secret battle that nobody knows about. And it's clear that, I mean, having read a few extracts of the book, that really losing that Rome Champions League final hit a lot of the players in.
He's never talked to Sir Alex about it.
Well, no, exactly. But the culture of the dressing room, especially at a macho club like Manchester United with its sort of alpha male boss, I wonder if that's the sort of environment where you do admit that sort of thing. There's been a very, very reticent culture in football of talking about feelings. We don't really like admitting weaknesses, admitting kind of frailties, and that's probably why I kept it quiet.
From one player who has gone to be a very exciting assistant on the bench, and one many is looking to for a future at Manchester United, to John Terry. Now there's speculation.
Love that guy. Love him.
We believe Thierry Henry is out of the picture now as the man that comes out in Aston Villa. What we believe is John Terry certainly will go for an assistant's role at Aston Villa. This could date this horribly. Right to go for the assistant approach and not to go straight in as Frank has.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's different approaches for different players. I mean, you mentioned Henry, and Henry has certainly looked to work his way up through assistant coach roles and sort of kind of informal roles, and that I think is the route that a lot of players need to go down in order to just get used to life on the other side of the fence. I mean, the thing is, if you're a professional footballer of any kind of repute, you retire at 36, 37, and you've spent 25, 30 years of your life on the other side as a player, and almost that single-minded dedication to improving your own game. And when you move to what is essentially a totally different job, takes some getting used to. The thing about if Terry does ever take a full-time management job, he won't really be able to complain if there's a dressing room mutiny against him.
No, he won't. He's created a few of those, I reported on over the years. Brendan Rodgers, a manager that came up through the ranks from assistant coach to coach, and very much being tipped to be the man going in. Would that be a good fit? John Terry, of course, having worked with him a lot throughout his career.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Rodgers would take Aston Villa. It's a big club, sure, and a club in need of a bit of pep. No pun intended.
He's not taking it.
Yeah, but he's manager of Celtic. They get 50,000 a week, and he's basically guaranteed a couple of trophies every year. And unless he's really bored in Glasgow, I can't see him dropping down to the Championship. There are better jobs out there.
Okay. Interesting, Hazard revealing that he is torn about whether he will go to Real Madrid or not. He's almost saying, I want to be honest, I don't want there to be a situation as Thibaut Courtois had. I won't sign a contract if I don't think I'm going to stay, and that's very different to what he was saying quite recently about how much he was enjoying and loving playing football under Sarri.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's one of those interviews that crops up every now and again where Hazard just kind of, he tests the water a little bit, and
good at that.
Down boy.
Very good at that.
Yeah. So he's not the sort of guy who you feel is going to go on strike or kick up a stink or disappear to Belgium like Diego Costa going back to Brazil and just like sitting watching daytime telly for a couple of weeks. But every so often he will have a little dabble, and I think the phrase he used was, obviously it's a dream move, but if he doesn't want to, if he doesn't see his future at Chelsea and doesn't want to sign a contract on the basis of that, it's kind of a certain integrity to it, isn't it?
Definitely does. Of course, there's one big match we can't avoid, and that's Liverpool-Manchester City. We should have got there earlier, to be honest. I have to tell you, a very poor John Stones earlier was signing autographs for fans, and one fan genuinely turned around to him and said, why didn't you take the penalty? And laughed. And he did really well at laughing, and he didn't seem to be gritting his teeth.
That's nice.
It was very nice, wasn't he?
Good lad, John Stones.
Could this is the discussion, the closest Premier League title race? We hope it will be, don't we?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Chelsea have shown that they've got something to say about that as well. But neither City nor Liverpool really seem to have hit the heights of last season. And it's really hard to see City or any team pulling away as spectacularly as they did last season. So Liverpool have a couple more gears. City seem like they have a couple more gears, and there's a bit more maturity to them. I think this one could run. I think there's a lot of juice in this one.
We have to go on to the man that everyone is talking about. We were lacking creativity, weren't we, at the World Cup? And there seems to be a certain man in Germany that's creating just that. Jadon Sancho, he's here. Everyone's very excited. We'll be talking to him shortly. There is a lovely, lovely piece by Adrian Kajumba, actually, in which he goes to speak to all his younger coaches. It's a really lovely read to get a real insight about the quality of this boy and how much he's grown throughout the different coaches as well, how much he's learned. It's a really beautifully researched piece that we'll all go and recreate.
Normally these pieces are all they're kind of a bit identikit. You know, when you normally read them, it's his first coach goes like, well, right from the start we could tell he had talent, and his mother goes, oh, he just wanted to play football. You could never get the ball off him. You could almost sort of read them in advance. But there's a real kind of narrative arc to this.
Yeah.
It gets some really nice stuff, AJ.
And you also did a very nice piece on Trent Alexander-Arnold and his love of chess. Tell us how that all came about, and you also talked to him about who is the most creative player that has the best vision for the game.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So, I mean, you may not know this, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, big chess fan, well, big chess player, and so yesterday morning, so that'll be Monday. In case you're watching this in the future, he played the world chess champion and the guy widely considered to be the greatest chess player of all time, Magnus Carlsen, in a sort of a little blitz match in Manchester. And predictably, he lost, but he did all right actually. He lasted 17 moves, which is about twice as many as Bill Gates managed. And afterwards, talked about how he got into chess. His dad got him into it. He plays with his brothers. He plays with Ben Woodburn at Liverpool, and I suppose there are kind of similarities there in that you have to the best players almost see the whole pitch like a chessboard, and he talked about players at Liverpool who read the game really well and kind of modestly excluding himself from that category. He said Virgil van Dijk was probably the player that can anticipate best, so maybe Van Dijk wants to give him a game at some point.
And we know now you've set up a chess tournament, Varric Dyer getting involved, which is a lovely new element in this competitive environment we are in. I have to ask you, who do you think is the player with the best vision in this England side, and the new players that have come in from Southgate, backing himself as he signs that contract to show great faith in youth?
Well, we've not seen a huge amount of Mason Mount. Well, Mason Mount's never played in the Premier League. Maddison, I think, James Maddison has played 7 games. So it's kind of a small sample size of elite level football. But I think if we're talking about vision, Maddison does seem to be one of those players that almost kind of sees 2 steps ahead. He can see the pass that's not quite ready to be played yet, but by the time he plays it, a little gap has opened up, and he scores goals, which I think a lot gets talked about England's creativity deficit, and it's a lot to put on this young man's shoulders. But I'm quite excited to see how he gets on, Maddison. And obviously Sancho, we know about. Mason Mount, very, very highly talked about in the 19s and the 21s. But the other guy I want to talk about, if we're talking about anticipating the game and reading the game, is the goalkeeper Pickford. Yeah. We saw in the World Cup his vision, and obviously they've got a goalkeeper that can play 40-50 yard passes, really quite precise these days. He's one of the best there is in the Premier League.
Well, knowing me and knowing you, we've got things to do. We literally have, talking of chess. You can stay up to date with all the updates on the footballwriters.co.uk website. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you.
You jumped in at the last minute. Much appreciated. Mr. Hetherington was running late for us. And we will be bringing you up to date with all the latest on the website. Do go there. There's some lovely stories for you to catch up on. For now, bye-bye.